The 34th Annual Summit of the Arab League concludes with the approval of a monetary fund for the restoration of the Gaza Strip. U.S. President Donald Trump closed his 4-day Middle East tour by saying good things will happen in Gaza, but without mentioning Israel's bombing in recent days. And in Peru, the Public Prosecutor's Office filed 3 new charges against President Dina Boluarte for illicit enrichment, concealment, and abandonment of office. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Iraq, the 34th Annual Summit of the Arab League concluded with the approval of a monetary fund for the restoration of the Gaza Strip. The meeting was attended by heads of states, presidents, and foreign ministers of Arab countries in the midst of a context marked by multiple crises and regional transformations. The Arab leaders called for an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, the establishment of an independent Palestinian state, and a unified approach to the challenges in the Middle East. In this regard, Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani announced the launching of the Arab Fund for the reconstruction of Gaza and Lebanon under the supervision of the Arab bloc.
We are announcing 18 ambitious initiatives to promote joint Arab action, the most important of which is the initiative to establish an Arab fund to support post-crisis, post-conflict, and post-war recovery and reconstruction efforts. We confirm here Iraq's contribution of $20 million for the reconstruction of Gaza and another $20 million for the reconstruction of brotherly Lebanon.
Meanwhile, Iraqi Foreign Minister Fuad Hussein met with the Prime Minister of Lebanon, Nawaf Salam, as part of the 34th Summit of the Arab League. Diplomat Hussein stressed the importance of Prime Minister Salam's visit as a key step towards strengthening relations between Baghdad and Beirut. He also stressed the need to unite efforts to reach an agreement on security, stability, and sustainable development in the region. For his part, Salam praised Baghdad's historic role in Arab unity, with its ability to build bridges of cooperation between member nations in the face of the current challenges shared by the bloc. And in this context, the President of Egypt, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, denounced the intensification of the Israeli genocide against the Gaza Strip before the member countries of the Arab League. During his speech, the Egyptian leader pointed out that the Palestinian cause is going through one of the most dangerous phases, as its people are subjected to systematic and brutal crimes with the aim of putting an end to their presence in Gaza. El-Sisi also emphasized that the Israeli machine does not show any consideration for children and the elderly. On the contrary, it implements policies of destruction. The Egyptian president acknowledged the steadfastness of the Palestinian people in defending their legitimate right to their land and homeland. In other topics, Iran says it is ready for dialogue with the United States, but warns that it will not be intimidated by threats. During a meeting with senior Iranian army commanders and members of the Iranian army, President Masoud Pezeshkian said that his government does not seek war and is willing to negotiate over its nuclear program, but that it will never renounce to its legitimate rights. The statement came after his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump escalated his hostile rhetoric against Iran on Friday, warning of unspecified consequences if Tehran does not act swiftly on what he called a U.S. proposal.
We are negotiating and will continue to do so. We don't seek war, but we don't fear any threats. It's not like we will back down from our inalienable rights as human beings if they threaten us. We won't back down.
In the Gaza Strip, over the last 24 hours, Israeli forces have killed 153 Palestinians and wounded 459 others. Health authorities say the number of fatalities has increased to 53,272 and the number of wounded to 120,673 since the genocide started. They also warned that emergency services are still unable to reach the victims or recover bodies trapped under the rubble due to the Israeli blockade on roads. Authorities denounced that Israeli troops continue with the offensive despite calls made by the United Nations Security Council for an immediate ceasefire. And in Libya, thousands of people took to the streets to demand the resignation of Prime Minister Abdul Hamid Deibe, following the growing tensions raised by bombing carried out by forces loyal to the National Unity Government against demonstrators. The High Council of State issued a communique urging the so-called National Unity Government to resign within 48 hours. The attack left at least one person dead and several injured amid discontent over the political situation. Meanwhile, 7 ministers and 4 deputy ministers of Deibe's cabinet resigned amid protests, and they urged their colleagues to resign as well to avoid confrontation between Libyans. We now have a short break coming up. First, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump closed his 4-day Middle East tour by saying good things will happen in Gaza, but without mentioning Israel's bombing in recent days, which left more than 50 people dead on Friday alone. President Trump simply said that a lot of good things are going to happen over the next month, and we are going to have to help the Palestinians as well. During his visit, the U.S. head of state tiptoed around difficult geopolitical issues related to the region to focus on the $3 or $4 trillion in trade deals between U.S. companies and Gulf investors. Meanwhile, for the 3rd day in a row, Israel continued its attacks on the Gaza Strip. On Friday, leaving 50 dead, according to a spokesman for the civil protection of the Palestinian enclave. And the U.S. Supreme Court on Friday stood in the way of President Donald Trump's plans, refusing to move forward with the deportations of a group of immigrants under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. The decision, which upheld some 200 Venezuelan migrants held in a Texas detention center were on the verge of deportation, if the broad powers of that archaic wartime legislation were invoked. The justices remanded the case to an appeals court to decide the underlying questions, including whether the president's actions are legal and how far in advance the migrants who will be affected by the measure should be informed. The decision has been rated by some media as a break for Trump. And in 2004, the United Nations proclaimed May 17th as the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. The date was chosen in commemoration of the day on which homosexuality was removed from the International Classification of Mental Illnesses. It is essential to keep in mind that homosexual, bisexual, transgender, or intersex persons are victims of harassment, arrest, and even murder all over the world. Homosexuality remains a felony or a crime in more than 70 states and is punishable by the death penalty in soon 11 of them. The commemoration of the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia is an expression of respect in a society that accepts diversity. And in this sense, as part of the launch of World Pride in Washington, D.C., the American Civil Liberties Union and the Gender Liberation Movement unveils the freedom to be killed on the National Mall, a 9,000 square foot collection of over 250 kill panels handmade by transgender people and their families from across the United States.
Time for this installation because we are seeing across the board an attempt to erase trans folks from all public life, and we knew that we need to take up space. We needed to memorialize people's stories and do it in the literal backyard of the Capitol. We wanted to make sure that folks were not erased, that folks were not forgotten, that their stories were not just lost to time.
There's no such thing as freedom that just belongs to other people. There's only our rights and our freedom. And we have to defend it for all of us, or we risk losing it for all of us. And that's especially true right now under this current administration. And it's a value that we're always going to fight for.
And Colombia reported 164 murders against LGBTIQ plus people in 2024, an increase of 3.8% over the previous year, according to a report released Friday by the Caribbean Affirmative.
Today in Caribe Afirmativo's counts, we are a social organization and we have not yet corroborated information with the institutions. We report 41 murders in the year 2025 on LGBTQ plus people, many of which were surely motivated by the sexual orientation, identity, and gender expression of the victims.
Cada 2 días, según este informe,
every 2 days, according to this report, one person is murdered, an LGBTQ person. And every 2 days, one person from this population has been a victim of sexual violence. The report represents heartbreaking figures that constitute an urgent call to eradicate the dynamics of prejudice in the country.
The 22nd Ibero-American Judicial Summit concluded in the Dominican Republic, marked by the signing of the Santo Domingo Declaration as part of the reaffirmation of our regional commitment to a more accessible and inclusive justice system. During the closing ceremony, presidents of Supreme Courts of Justice and judicial councils from at least 23 countries highlighted the key principles of judicial independence, equality, and freedom focused on guaranteeing human dignity. The summit was held under the slogan "Justice Up to Date to Guarantee People's Dignity," and revolve around timely, inclusive, and reliable justice. During its development, the participants addressed common challenges such as technological modernization, equity in access to justice, and international cooperation.
Se aprobó la declaración de Santo Domingo.
The Santo Domingo Declaration was approved and the permanent and pro tempore secretariats were elected. The pro tempore secretariat went to Brazil, which will host the next Ibero-American Judicial Summit, and the alternate secretariat went to Spain, was ratified after a second vote. There was a tie first. Uruguay was ratified as the host country for the permanent secretariat of the Ibero-American Judicial Summit.
La Cumbre Judicial Iberoamericana es
The Ibero-American Judicial Summit is very important for all the countries of the region because we have many similar problems, similar issues, and our idea, Brazil, as a member of the summit, is to ensure the unity of the region, the transparency and independence of the judiciary. It is that all of us can be together in this idea of justice, peace, and brotherhood. We need a lot of respect, independence, so that the summit is very important. And now Brazil, as the pro tempore secretariat, wants to work on a very important topic, which is artificial intelligence. All countries are invited to work together with Brazil.
We now have our second break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break, we're back with more. Welcome back. In Peru, the Public Prosecutor's Office filed 3 new charges against President Dina Boluarte for the crimes of illicit enrichment, concealment of a clandestine politician, and even abandonment of office. The first of the complaints refers to Boluarte's previous position as Minister of Development and Social Inclusion, where she illegally increased her assets. The most important accusations refer to the death of half a hundred civilians during the preparation of the protests against her ascension to the presidency in December 2022. The accusations bring to 24 the number of investigations against Boluarte undertaken by the Public Prosecutor's Office, bringing to 10 the total number of cases filed before Parliament against the President. And on Saturday, people in the UK marched in commemoration of the 77th anniversary of the Nakba and in support of Palestine. Hundreds of people gathered on Westminster Bridge in London, waving Palestinian flags. During the demonstration, participants recalled the expulsion of at least 700,000 Palestinians who were forced to leave their homes because of the Arab-Israeli war. Demonstrators also condemned Israel's 19-month onslaught aimed at seizing Palestinian territory and wiping out its inhabitants. With 6 months to go until COP30, the 19th International Conference on Community-Based Adaptation to Climate Change took place this week in Recife, Brazil. Correspondent Bramir has more.
According to the national census, 1.3 million Brazilians live in rural communities called quilombolas, which were founded by people who escaped slavery and have similar land rights as indigenous reserves. During the 19th International Conference on Community-Based Adaptation to Climate Change in Recife, activists highlighted the important role that these communities have stewarding the environment.
We understand that Mother Nature and all animals exist so that we can share our existence and live together. We do not believe that we should exploit our natural patrimony in any way because we know that it's because of nature that we can guarantee the presence of our species and the life of the planet.
In Pernambuco's southern forest zone, Engenho Siqueira Quilombola sits on the edge of a huge mangrove forest. Residents there have been farming, fishing, and gathering shellfish since the community was first founded by people who escaped slavery in the 1600s.
Quilombola residents have a way of life which we can call sustainable, in collaboration with nature. They consider themselves as part of nature and conserve their biome, all of its vegetation and all of the biodiversity. Their way of life is based on cooperation with nature.
Like people from other quilombolas and indigenous reserves across Brazil, the residents of Engenho Siqueira are on the front lines of the fight for climate change mitigation, often seeing changes in the environment years before the rest of society discovers what's happening.
The water is becoming too salty, and this is preventing some species from inhabiting our mangrove forest, such as the aratu and blue crabs. We also see that climate change is affecting our ecosystem because the people who regularly go fishing are saying that there is a shortage of fish in our community.
With support from the MST and local environmentalist networks like Sabiá, residents of Engenho Siqueira are fighting to transform the mangrove forest in Rio Formosa into a national park. Brian Mir, teleSUR, Pernambuco.
In the United States, authorities registered the death of at least 2 people amidst flooding caused by heavy rains in several regions. Both deaths were caused by the collapse of trees in Fairfax County and Fort Hunt in the state of Virginia. Authorities also reported that at least 90,000 people are without power due to thunderstorms in Virginia, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. Heavy rainfalls are expected to continue over the weekend. Like this, you have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.